Let me start with a simple question. How many of you have ever said, "I was perfectly fine until someone spoke"? Yes, that someone is very powerful, isn't it? Let me begin with a simple reflection. Most of the anger we experience in life does not come from big tragedies, it comes from small moments. A careless comment, an ignored message, a tone we didn't like, an expectation that wasn't met, and suddenly our peace disappears. The mind starts racing, the heart feels heavy, and the moment that was ordinary becomes painful. What is interesting is the person who triggered us may not even realize it. But we allow that moment to occupy our thoughts for hours, sometimes days. This is where we must pause and ask, why should someone else have so much power over our inner world? We often believe that anger is caused by people. But if we look a little deeper, we will notice that anger is born when reality does not match our expectations. We expect people to understand us, respect us, agree with us, or behave according to our values. When they don't, frustration arises. The problem is not people. The problem is our attachment to how people should be. Life becomes lighter the moment we replace expectations with acceptance. Acceptance does not mean approval. It simply means understanding that people act from their own conditioning, experiences, and limitations. There is another important truth we often forget. Not every thought deserves attention, and not every comment deserves a response. Silence is not defeat, silence is wisdom. When someone speaks from anger, insecurity, or ignorance, responding immediately only pulls us down to the same emotional level. But when we pause, breathe, and choose calm over reaction, we protect something precious, our peace. And peace, once protected, becomes strength. Many people think being calm means being weak. In reality, calmness is the highest form of power. Anyone can react. It takes courage to remain composed. Anyone can shout. It takes wisdom to stay quiet. The moment you stop reacting impulsively, you stop being controlled by external situations. You begin to live from the inside out rather than the outside in. We must also remember that holding on to anger is like carrying a heavy bag while walking a long journey. The longer we hold it, the more tired we become. Forgiveness and letting go are not favors to others, they are gifts to ourselves. When we let go, we don't lose anything. We gain clarity, lightness, and freedom. So the next time someone says or does something that bothers you, pause and remind yourself, I choose peace over proving a point. I choose calm over chaos. I choose control over reaction. Because the day you stop allowing people to disturb your inner state is the day you truly begin to live with freedom, balance, and quiet confidence. Think about how often our mood changes because of someone else. One conversation can lift us up, and one careless remark can pull us down. We begin the day with good intentions, but by evening we feel drained, irritated, or upset, not because the day was difficult, but because we allowed small things to disturb us. The truth is, most of our emotional exhaustion does not come from what happens to us, but from how deeply we let it affect us. When we realize this, a quiet sense of responsibility awakens within us. Many people believe that peace is something we find when the world becomes calm. But the world has never been calm, and it never will be. People will continue to behave according to their nature, their fears, and their understanding. Expecting everyone to meet our standards is like expecting the weather to adjust to our preferences. The wiser approach is to strengthen ourselves internally. When we do that, external situations lose their power over us. Often, anger is not really anger. It is hurt. It is unmet expectation. It is the pain of feeling unimportant or misunderstood. But instead of addressing the root, we express it as irritation. If we become honest with ourselves, we will see that most reactions are automatic habits. Someone speaks, and we react. Someone ignores us, and we feel offended. There is no pause, no awareness. The moment we introduce awareness, everything begins to change. Between what happens and how we respond, there is a small but powerful space. In that space lies choice. We can choose to react and suffer, or we can choose to respond and grow. A reaction is driven by emotion, a response is guided by understanding. The more we practice this pause, the more we reclaim control over our inner world. Slowly, we realize that we don't need to attend every argument we are invited to, and we don't need to carry every opinion that is thrown at us. It is also important to understand that people do not act to hurt us personally. They act from their own conditioning. When someone is rude, it often reflects their inner chaos. When someone is insensitive, it reflects their lack of awareness. Taking everything personally is a heavy burden. When we stop doing that, life becomes lighter. Compassion begins where judgment ends. Calmness does not mean suppressing emotions. It means understanding them without letting them control us. A calm person still feels pain, disappointment, and frustration, but these emotions do not dictate their behavior. Instead of exploding outward, they observe inward. This observation brings clarity, and clarity brings peace. As we grow in this understanding, we realize something beautiful. Our happiness does not need permission from anyone. Our peace does not depend on someone's behavior. The more we practice letting go, the more we experience freedom. And one day, without force or effort, we notice that the same things that once disturbed us no longer have power over us. That is not because people changed, but because we did. There is a quiet pattern most of us live with, often without noticing it. We wake up in the morning with a neutral or positive state of mind, and as the day unfolds, small interactions begin to shape our emotions. A delayed reply, an unexpected criticism, a tone that feels disrespectful. None of these are life-threatening, yet they have the power to disturb us deeply. By the end of the day, we feel tired, not physically, but emotionally. This happens because we allow external events to decide our internal condition. One of the biggest misunderstandings in life is believing that peace comes when people behave the way we want them to. But people are not projects we can manage. Everyone is acting from their own level of awareness, emotional maturity, and past experiences. When we expect consistency from an inconsistent world, disappointment is inevitable. True peace begins when we stop demanding that life fit our expectations and start aligning ourselves with reality as it is. Anger often feels justified. We tell ourselves, anyone in my place would react this way. But justification does not mean it is beneficial. Anger clouds our intelligence. In moments of anger, we say things we later regret and make decisions that don't reflect our values. The cost of anger is always higher than we imagine. It damages relationships, weakens trust, and most importantly, it disturbs our own mind long after the situation has passed. There is immense power in pausing. A pause is not avoidance, it is awareness. When something triggers us, that brief moment of silence before reacting can change everything. In that pause, we reconnect with our higher understanding rather than our raw emotion. Over time, this practice becomes a habit, and habits, once formed, quietly shape our character. Another important shift happens when we stop taking things personally. Most people are not thinking about us as much as we think they are. They are dealing with their own fears, struggles, and pressures. When we internalize their behavior, we carry a weight that was never meant for us. Understanding this does not excuse poor behavior, but it frees us from unnecessary suffering. Calmness is often misunderstood as passivity. In reality, calmness is clarity. A calm mind can see situations for what they truly are, without exaggeration or distortion. When the mind is calm, responses become thoughtful, words become gentle, and actions become aligned with wisdom rather than impulse. As we practice this way of living, something subtle yet powerful happens. Situations remain the same, people remain the same, but our experience changes. We no longer feel the need to react to every provocation or explain ourselves to everyone. Peace becomes our default state, not because the world has become kinder, but because we have become stronger from within. And that inner strength is what allows us to move through life with grace, balance, and quiet confidence. Most of us live our lives on autopilot, reacting to what happens around us rather than consciously choosing how we respond. From the moment we wake up, our mind begins collecting impressions. Someone said this, someone did that, traffic was bad, work was stressful, and before we know it, our mood has shifted. We often blame the circumstances or the people for how we feel. But if we pause and reflect, we realize that it is not the events themselves, nor the people that disturb us. It is our attachment, our interpretation, and our unwillingness to let go. Anger, irritation, and frustration are signals, not enemies. They are messages from within, telling us that our expectations have been challenged, that our sense of control has been threatened. But life will always have moments where reality does not meet our expectations. The sooner we accept this, the sooner we begin to experience freedom. Acceptance is not resignation. It is the courage to acknowledge life as it is, rather than as we wish it to be. It is also essential to understand that responding does not always mean reacting. Reaction is immediate, uncontrolled, and often harmful. Response is conscious, measured, and protective of our peace. When someone provokes us, criticizes us, or behaves insensitively, we have the choice to either hand over the remote control of our emotions or to retain it. Every time we choose awareness over reaction, we reinforce our inner strength. We remind ourselves that our happiness, our calmness, our equilibrium is ultimately our responsibility, not anyone else's. We often assume that silence is weakness, but in reality, silence can be one of the most powerful responses. Choosing not to escalate, choosing to listen more than to speak, and choosing to act from understanding rather than emotion. These are the markers of someone who is emotionally mature. Peaceful people do not allow every disturbance to occupy space in their mind. They are selective with what they accept. Just as we cannot control the waves of the ocean, we cannot control the waves of other people's behavior. But we can learn to navigate them without capsizing. Holding on to anger is like carrying a stone in your hand all day and expecting someone else to feel the weight. The stone is heavy for you, not for them. Letting go is not giving in, it is reclaiming your freedom. When we forgive, not because others deserve it, but because we need it, we lighten our own hearts. When we stop giving power to people or events to define our emotional state, we become the architects of our own peace. Ultimately, the art of never being disturbed by anyone lies in understanding the impermanence of every moment, every word, every insult, and every praise. Life moves fast, and we have only so much energy to spend. When we protect our inner world, when we respond instead of reacting, when we let go of expectations and embrace acceptance, we experience a calmness that cannot be shaken. That calmness does not depend on anyone else. It depends entirely on the strength we cultivate within ourselves, and in that strength lies true freedom. Have you ever noticed how a single word, a single action, or even a look from someone can disturb your entire day? It is fascinating how humans often give away the keys to their own peace to people who don't even know they hold them. We wake up in a calm state, perhaps even happy, and then interactions, opinions, criticisms, or misunderstandings chip away that peace slowly, almost imperceptibly. And yet, if we pause and observe, we will realize that the disturbance is not caused by the other person. It is caused by our own mind choosing to react, to take offense, to carry the weight of something that need not belong to us. Anger is often misunderstood. People see it as something external, as if someone else poured it into us. But anger is like a fire that we light ourselves. The sparks come from outside, but the fuel, the expectations, the judgments, the attachments comes from within. When reality does not match what we want, when people do not act the way we imagine they should, the mind flares up. And yet, what if we chose to water that fire with understanding instead of fuel it with resentment? What if we learned to see every comment, every challenge, as a test of our composure rather than a threat to our peace? The art of remaining undisturbed is deeply connected to awareness. Between stimulus and response, there is a subtle but powerful space. In that space there is choice. We can choose to react immediately, which often results in chaos, or we can pause, reflect, and respond, which brings clarity. That pause is where freedom resides. Most people, however, give away this freedom every day, letting impulsive emotions dictate their actions and rob them of tranquility. Cultivating awareness is like learning a new muscle. It requires practice, patience, and persistence. But the rewards are immense: a mind that is calm in the storm, a heart that is not easily shaken, and a life that feels lighter and more spacious. It is also essential to understand that letting go does not mean ignoring or accepting harm. It means choosing not to carry unnecessary emotional baggage. Someone may speak harshly, criticize, or misunderstand, and that is their choice. We have the choice to respond with wisdom rather than react with hurt. By not internalizing the negativity of others, we protect the sanctity of our own inner space. Anger, resentment, and irritation are expensive emotions. They take a toll on our health, relationships, and clarity of mind. Choosing peace over reaction is not passive, it is proactive self-care. Ultimately, the practice of not being bothered by anyone is the practice of self-mastery. We cannot control other people, nor should we try. But we can control ourselves, our thoughts, our choices, our response to the world. When we cultivate this calmness, we become like a still lake. External winds may blow, storms may rage, yet our depths remain undisturbed. Peace is not something to be begged for or borrowed. It is cultivated, protected, and claimed from within. And once we live from that space, we realize that no one, no circumstance, and no word can take away the serenity that belongs to us naturally. If you truly want freedom, stop asking people to change. Instead, change the way you respond. The day you stop letting others control your emotions, that day, you don't just become peaceful. You become unstoppable.